Idle mode.
Call the meeting to order.
This is our Christmas card.
Rebecca, will you please call the roll?
Gandy.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Hallie.
Yes.
Council, are there any changes to the agenda tonight? If not, let's move on to the consent agenda. Approval of the minutes of the February 10th, 2020 special council meeting. Approval of the minutes of the February 10th, 2020 council meeting. Approval of February 21st, 2020 payroll in the amount of $119,908.53. Acceptance of the library board minutes. Approval of a liquor license for Walmart store number 985 and Aranda's Mexican restaurant. Approval of total claims in the amount of $171,070.06, and there are no claims over $75,000.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Moved by Anderson, second by Flournoy. Any discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Anderson.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Hallie.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Next on the agenda is the public appearances. We have Matthew Welcher, is he here? Okay, going to speak about the 2020 Power Wagon Rally.
Good evening. I'm here on behalf of Vintage Power Wagons. This is our 33rd annual Vintage Power Wagon Rally this year. It's going to be held May 31st through June 7th. As per usual, the parade is the big thing. Saturday morning, 8:30, it leaves the fairgrounds and heads to the square. We're asking to block the square like we normally do. The inner two lanes will leave the fire lane, and then Daryl drops off the barricades the night before, and we take out and block the northeast, northwest corners. Other than that, everything's per usual, per normal. I think we're going to have a good year. It's going to be a good turnout. Last year, we partnered with the Chamber on a Wednesday night event for a Live on the Square with a band. We're going to do that again this year, but we do not need to block the square off, so we won't have to worry about that this year. We're partnered with CRC Ornamentals, the Chamber of Commerce, and Sweet and Saucy for our Wednesday night Live on the Square event. So it should be another good time.
Yeah.
Any questions, council? Not, I entertain a motion to approve it.
Move we approve the road blockages as suggested in the document.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Flournoy, second by Gandy to approve this plan for the 2020 Power Wagon Rally. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, that's passed unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
We look forward to it. Kiwanis Kids Day, Darren Hamilton.
Hi, it's going to be that time again sooner than we think. The third Saturday in September, the 19th, is what we're hoping for the Kiwanis Kids Day again once this year. Hopefully it'll be a lot drier than it was this last year and that we'll be able to actually have the marching bands in the parade. Again, I'll work with Daryl and Dave about the normal street closures that we do. The parade route is going to be the same as it was. Start at the high school parking lot, come across on Broadway to Main Street, go north on Main Street up to Hempstead, which is on the south side of Howard Park, over to Court, back down to Briggs, and then back to the high school on the north side of the parking lot. Again, we've got a lot of coordination that we make between now and then. But our parade theme, we've already decided this year, is going to be Soaring for Hope, which is the theme of Kiwanis International's float in the Rose Parade this year. So we're trying to keep with the theme that we have internationally and bringing it here to Fairfield. So if you have any questions.
Move to approve. Second.
All right.
Any more discussion? Okay, it was moved by Hallie, second by Flournoy to approve the Kids Day Parade as normal. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, passed unanimously.
I'm Steve Beeman with Collector Cars Unlimited. I'm here to ask for permission to use the square for our 30-odd annual car sale, 38, 39, somewhere in there. It'll be September 20, the day after Kiwanis, so the barricades and everything will still be there. We're looking to use the square as we have in the past. And if we have a year like we did this past year, we'll open the square back up. We only had like the inside of one side of the square shut down last year because weather didn't cooperate. Hopefully we have a better weather year.
Great. Any questions?
I was gonna make a motion
Okay, go ahead.
to approve the Collector Car Limited plans for their show.
Second.
Moved by Flournoy, second by Toohill. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, great, thank you. That's passed
Thank
unanimously.
you.
Farm Show Street Closure, Kaylee Peterson. Okay, well, we'll go on. Honey Beehives permission, Dustin and Heidi Lane.
Hello. We have about 16 undeveloped acres at Park and Madison and going down to Quoddy Circle. And we'd like to try our hand at beekeeping. So I think we showed on the diagram where we'd put it. It won't really impact any neighbors, but we just wanted to, since we are right at the edge of city limits, then wanted to ask permission.
How many hives will you get? You had 16, you said?
2. We have 16 acres. We're
16
going to put
acres,
2
2 hives.
beehives, yes.
That's it.
We had one of these requests a few years ago, and we asked if they had checked with their neighbors. That's the only thing I can remember.
Right, and our neighbors, I mean, this is a large piece of land, so there's not really anyone that would be in the flight path or anywhere nearby. There'll be quite a few trees in between our house and anyone else's house, so.
Have you checked with any neighbors?
We haven't. We don't live there right now, so we don't have a house on the property.
So, is this in a residential area? It's proposed?
It's on Deerview Estates, back behind Quoddy Circle, and so we enclosed a map of it too.
You know, I can't tell on here where the bees are going to be sitting, actually.
So right now it's a 16-acre, actually alfalfa field, or about 10 acres of it or so is in alfalfa, and then there's some timber around the edges. So it'll be just kind of a little bit off of where the alfalfa is and not
Where
too
the
far
red
into
circle
the
is and the
trees.
2 lines?
Excuse me.
Is that where it's going to be sitting? Yeah. Okay.
So would you keep, you don't live there? You're not planning to live there?
We will build a house there. We live about a mile away over on Hempstead.
The reason I asked, there was a concern, there's been a concern expressed by a nearby resident that they, as they characterize it, there's going to be bees in the ditch behind their home. So I guess I'd like you to address that's the concern apparently of residents near where I think this proposed these beehives would be.
Okay, so the 2 beehives is small. I mean, it is a lot of bees, but we won't have them down in the ditch. They can't be down in any kind of wetland area. They'll be up in an open area that's quite a distance from our property line.
Do you know how far from their property line?
It was lower line, it's like 100 and some.
About 170 feet in the southwest.
That's what that means.
Yeah, and so the beehive, the beehive's only a very small. How big is the beehive? 2 feet by 1 feet. It's a very small little box, and the exit will face the south. And I suppose they do fly. They disperse and go 1 or 2 miles, but.
Okay.
I guess the only thing I would say is we do the same thing we did last time, is ask them to make their neighbors aware of this before we approve it.
Who would we
See, there's-
consider to be neighbors in that
I
place,
think anybody who's
though?
adjoining the property that you're putting the bees on,
What seems kind of,
even though it's a long distance,
right,
we don't have rules in place for this kind of thing, so I'm just trying to be consistent with what we did before.
because that person would be asking someone who's quite a distance closer to them than what we would be asking. We did look up that last case. It was on Fillmore.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that if someone objected that we wouldn't approve it, just to make them aware so they have the opportunity to come and speak to the issue.
I think some of the people that are on Quoddy Circle perhaps are the ones that seemingly have had, have contacted, at least in terms of concerns. So I think maybe if you could sort of explain to them and talk about the size of the hives and some things, I think that would make them feel more comfortable.
Just so they're not surprised and they have an opportunity to weigh in on the topic.
Okay. All right. Then what would be the process?
Schedule another meeting for us to approve this, or
Would you like signatures or?
we
you
never got
want-
that far on the last issue. We never got that far, so
Uh-huh.
I
don't know what the
think the
council would
last
like
one
to
met
do.
enough people that didn't want it that they didn't come back. So enough of the neighborhood was against it that they didn't have the support they had hoped. So I don't think they ever came back for a
no,
second.
they didn't, and so we didn't
Yeah.
go anywhere with it.
Okay, so would you like signatures, and addresses and signatures of everyone, or what would you specifically
I'd be
like?
satisfied with that, but
It wouldn't
That's what
hurt.
you're saying.
no, I don't think it wouldn't hurt
It would
at all.
help you, I'm sure.
And you give you an opportunity to educate them. I know that they're not a threat. I understand that, but most people don't know that, so they might be nervous about it.
Okay,
Good.
And just bring that back to us, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, when you're ready, just come back with,
I mean, on the face of it, I see no reason why we wouldn't approve it.
okay.
Right. Thank you.
thank you. Okay, next, yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, Rustin, do you want to talk about the farm show street closure? Because we had Kaylee Peterson down.
Yes.
And so anyway, we had skipped over that, so maybe you want to speak to that.
So I can pass these on, but it's the same thing that you'll see over there. You'll see I'm here to request that the streets closed around the convention center for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Thursday night, we will start to set the barricades. So Friday, it will be closed Friday and Saturday. We'll have 50 vendors at the farm show, and we'll have equipment on Main Street, there on the east side of the convention center. So the request of this closure is the angles on Main Street, so the traffic can still use Briggs and Hempstead.
Okay.
Yes. I was the last minute fill-in on the presentation,
But this is what we've done.
We've done
this is actually the same map that we've
Yeah.
used 3 years.
Let's see what's
It's such a
last time.
great map
Yep.
that they've kept it.
And we're all sitting here trying to turn our iPads to make it directly right. Rustin, I'll save you and I'll make a motion to approve already.
Second.
And the guy that made the map's not for hire.
I'd like you to keep talking.
Tractor driven.
All righty, it's been moved by Anderson, second by Flournoy to accept the street closures for the farm show. Any other questions for Rustin?
I invite everyone to come out. It's 9 to 3 on Saturday. It's always a good time. Then we've got Diamond Rio at Saturday night, so make a day of it. Thanks.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, passed unanimously. Thank you, Rustin. Next on the agenda is the resolution, action items, and ordinances. So the first action item, consideration of change order number 23 for the wastewater treatment plant improvements, bid package number 1. And we have Alex here from McClure to talk about that.
Yep, so the first item related to the wastewater plant tonight is change order number 23. The change order consists of the addition of control equipment at the upper flow equalization basin. This is equipment that was actually removed from the contract of bid package 2 very early on in that project, I think probably almost 3 years ago. It took a long time to get the contractor to provide us pricing on this change, so it's kind of a holdover legacy item that we were wrapping up here as we do the new year. But basically, you're adding some equipment that was designed into the project, but we removed it from the other contract because we wanted a single contractor be responsible for integrating all of the control equipment at the wastewater plant, since it's all in the same SCADA system and has the same programming. So this change order is for $16,846.21 and includes all of the items that are included in there. I guess, are there any questions?
So have all the contingency funds been consumed
They have not, and I'll get to that more as we go on, but we have I think about $1.4 million of contingency funds remaining prior to the approval of change order 23 and the consideration of change order 24, and then the third action item on your agenda as well.
So this gets debited out of the contingency funds?
That's correct, yep.
Any other questions, council? I'll entertain a motion to approve this.
I move to approve it.
Second.
Moved by Flournoy, second by Gandy. Any other questions or discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Hallie.
Yes.
Okay, that was approved unanimously. The additional 16,000, A4621. Okay, the next action item, consideration of change order number 24 for the wastewater treatment plant.
Yep, so this change order is considerably more substantial than anything we've brought to you to date. So to get back to Mr. Flournoy's question about the budget, so when we started the project, there was a $33.1 million total financing package from USDA. The way USDA funds work is that you have to use cash first, loan second, and then grant third. Of that $33.1 million, the grant portion was about $900,000. So in order to get into that grant funding, you've got to spend the $32 million of cash and loan first. So like I mentioned earlier, we're sitting about $1.4 million remaining in that contingency fund unspent, which means that we haven't even dipped into the grant funds yet through the project, which I think is a good thing in a sense, because we've been able to manage most changes on the project so far to stay within the original budget. However, as we've gotten here toward the end, a few more significant things have popped up. So this item relates to the two existing final clarifiers in oxidation ditch number 1 and oxidation ditch number 2. When we designed the project, we did not anticipate replacing either of these two pieces of equipment. They were aging. They were installed in, I think, the 1982 project, but were still functioning. And given where that project was budget-wise at the beginning, did not elect to include that work in the design. However, as the contractor has gotten into oxidation ditch number 2, drawn that system down, and we're able to do a structural inspection of the final clarifier, it was realized that the clarifier is actually in a lot worse shape than we had thought. The city was not able to take down the clarifiers at any point during the design process because you have to have at least 2 up and running at all times. So because it was always underwater, it really was unknown as to what the condition of that equipment was. But it's a steel clarifier, and that steel is rusted through in several spots, and truly at the end of its life. So we anticipate that replacing it would be a prudent decision, knowing that we're getting basically a brand new wastewater plant to expand the wastewater plant and provide all this new equipment without addressing some failing equipment seems like a mistake. In addition to that, final clarifier number 1, which we haven't drawn down, has a broken gearbox, and because it's so old, replacement parts are very difficult to find. So the operators have spent countless hours kind of jerry-rigging it to make it continue to kind of work throughout the process. So this change order would basically authorize the contractor to demolish both of the existing final clarifiers and replace them with brand new equipment that would provide the same functionalities we have in the new final clarifier. So the catch with this one, in addition to the kind of how complicated it is, we need to add contract time onto the contract. These pieces of equipment have very long lead times, like 6-month lead times. So the way we have tried to work with the contractor so far is to get the entire project done by the end of June. That is advantageous for USDA financing purposes. This change, we probably won't even see equipment showing up until basically the 4th of July. So with this potential change, we'd be adding kind of separate milestones for this work, where substantial completion would be the end of November and final completion would be the end of December. The way we can make that work with the financing package is that we can allow the contractor to make the orders and bill for stored materials, which allows you to draw down on the interim financing loan. and not have to, in theory, not have to incur any additional interim financing expense with this change. And then back to the budget, in working with Melanie and Aaron, it's a $776,000 item that would still come out of the contingency money and bring us into the portion of that total financing package, which is now funded by the grant. So I guess we'd recommend that you move to approve this change order, which would authorize the contractor to replace both of the final clarifiers, and then make those associated changes to the contract as well in terms of completion times.
Alex, with a price tag like this, what is the life expectancy of the new clarifiers?
Yep, great question. 30 to 40 years, we'd expect, just like the new clarifier that you put in.
So, do we ever hire divers to go and look at these pieces of equipment to see what kind of shape they're in?
We did not hire divers, no.
But I mean, like the city over time, like.
You could. The great thing.
I mean, you're surprised, and we.
Yeah, the great thing.
Wouldn't have been surprised if we'd looked at them earlier.
Possibly, that's true. It's one of those things that the plant had been operating with almost no improvements in the process for almost 40 years. It was believed because they were functioning properly and they were still, working. By working, I mean separating solids and producing a good quality effluent over them, that there was no issues with them. As we've drawn them down, we've realized, okay, well, this weld is failing. There's a hole that's been corroded through in the metal here. So those sorts of things have kind of allowed us to realize that their time is pretty much up. But then to the other part of your point, when the project is complete and the city has 3 clarifiers, you'll have a redundant oxidation ditch and clarifier, whereby if the city would elect to want to inspect one for, say, on an annual basis, you have the capability to basically shut off water from that clarifier, draw it down, empty out the ditch, and do a complete inspection at any time you wanted, without having any concern of meeting your effluent limits, which is the big concern, the way the system is currently designed.
So what is that going to look like as they are working on them? Do they just work on one at a time?
Yep, so they have to do one at a time. So we're going to be working with the contractor and with city staff to write specific instructions for how the contractor is going to have to manage the construction of these clarifiers. So right now they have oxidation ditch number 2 completely drawn down and out of water. We're going to do some rehabilitation work that's included in the base portion of the contract here over the next couple weeks and months. We anticipate bringing that ditch back online and the clarifier back online later in the spring, and then probably doing a second drawdown for oxidation ditch number 1, which currently has water in it, doing the rehab work, and then by the time that rehab work is nearing completion, the first clarifier should be on site, which will allow the contractor to demolish it, replace it, and bring it back up without having to do multiple shutdowns and kind of crossovers of that equipment.
Yeah, I was wondering how many drawdowns you're going to have to do to try.
Yeah, it's a complicated process. I know that the wastewater plant, it's a pretty nervous time because the redundancy in the system isn't always there. So we're trying to help manage that, and that's what we're here for, to help.
Motion to approve the change order number 24.
Second.
Moved by Anderson, second by Flournoy. Any other discussion? If not, please call the roll.
Anderson?
Yes.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Hallie?
Yes.
Toohill?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Gandy?
Yes.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Okay, that was approved unanimously to replace the clarifiers at an amount of $776,427.10. Last action item here, consideration of amendment number 1 to engineering services agreement with McClure Engineering, the flow study.
Yeah, so this contract is an amendment to our current engineering agreement, which is being paid for out of that $33.1 million financing package. The reason this is an amendment rather than a standalone contract is because of those contingency funds that are still remaining. We've been working with staff to try to figure out appropriate uses of those contingency funds, much like on step 1 when the city included the city hall renovations and the ADA project onto that loan in order to take advantage of that grant funding. The secondary flow monitoring study is a project that's been identified in the city's EPA schedule. It was actually programmed for last year, but due to delays with the wastewater plant, kind of the front end of the plant coming online, we elected to just push that project into 2020. So now that we've gotten farther along and kind of realized where we are with the budget, we realized that rather than having to do a separate standalone contract, we could roll this into the USDA loan and grant package, take advantage of the grant funding, and still complete the work, which is kind of the preamble to the step 3 improvements. So the project consists of the installation of 11 flow meters, primarily on the west side of town. I think 7 or 8 of these are in basically the same locations that we put flow meters in 2012 when we did the original study. And the purpose of the study is to measure the wet weather flows that are coming from all the various service areas on the west side of town in order to provide us good data on exactly how to size the step 3 improvements and also the step 4 improvements, which are the longer term projects in the city's EPA agreement. When we did the 2012 study, that data suggested that those improvements had to be sized very large. So since then, the city has done a lot of collection system work, particularly on the west side of town, hoping to eliminate some of the sources of inflow and infiltration. So by doing this study, we're hopefully going to be able to confirm that flows are actually lower than we predict them to be, so that the scale of the improvements at step 3 and step 4 will be smaller than what we had initially projected, which is going to save the city money in the long run.
And that amount is $164,105, is that correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
It's moved by Rasmussen, second by Flournoy. Any other discussion? If not, please call the roll.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Gandy?
Yes.
Hallie?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Toohill?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Next, we have a resolution. Consideration to provide for the write-off of delinquent utility finals exceeding 5 years. You just want to say a quick thing about that, Rebecca?
Yes, this is something we do annually. So back in 2016, City Council approved a resolution giving us the authority to do this. Anything over $500, 5 years lapse, has to be approved by you guys.
Move we approve these write-offs.
Moved by Flournoy,
Second.
second by Rasmussen. Any discussion? If not, please call the roll.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Gandy?
Yes.
Toohill?
Yes.
Hallie?
Yes.
Approved unanimously to write off those water bills. Okay. Next on the agenda is the consideration of the max levy. We will have a public hearing, but before we open the public hearing, I'll have Aaron just talk a little bit about that.
Well, as many of you know, the state legislature enacted a new budget policy that requires the cities to approve a maximum levy that I assume so that citizens have an opportunity to see what the possible levy will be prior to us approving the budget. This year's levy is going to be, it'll be above the 2% allowable growth because of some of the situations that we've got going on within the city. So the maximum levy that we'd be approving is $16.14, I believe.
Yeah.
And on this approval, that would be the maximum amount we could budget for at the next meeting for our budget hearing. So if we have any changes, we can't go higher than that levy, but we could certainly go lower.
Okay, so we will open the public hearing. Are there any comments from the public? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Okay, council. Any additional questions or comments from council? Then I would entertain a resolution for this 2020 max levy.
I move that we adopt the max levy for 2020 as described.
Second.
Moved by Flournoy, second by Gandy. Any other discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Hallie,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Passed unanimously. Next action item is to set the public hearing for the 2021 budget for Monday, March 9th at 7 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Anderson, second by Flournoy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. So the budget will be on March 9th, 7 p.m. for a public hearing. Next is a resolution, consideration of tax abatement application for 501 West Washington, Kerbach Associates, looks like. Okay, any questions on that?
Move we approve.
Moved by Flournoy,
Second.
second by Gandy. Any other discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Hallie, Toohill,
Yes.
Next action item is to set a public hearing for nuisance abatement schedule of assessments, and we will be doing that on Monday, March 23rd at 7 p.m. Is there a motion to set that public hearing?
So moved.
Moved by Anderson,
Second.
second by Rasmussen. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Nuisance abatement schedule of assessments was passed unanimously. That will be March 23rd at 7 p.m. We have the third and final reading for Ordinance 1185, consideration of division of revenues under Section 403.19 Code of Iowa for Amendment Number 3 to the Highway 1, Highway 34 Bypass Urban Renewal Plan. Any
Motion to
questions?
approve.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Moved by Anderson.
Second.
Second by Toohill. Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Anderson,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Hallie,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Okay, approved unanimously. Mayor's report, the only thing I have is to appoint Tom Toohill to the Shell Spec Building Project 28E Committee. And just a reminder, we do have a work session on Saturday at 9 a.m. and we'll be getting out the agenda to you here in the next day or so.
Is it here?
Yes.
Okay.
Move to approve appointing Tom Toohill to the Shell Building Board.
Second.
Okay, moved by Hallie, second by Flournoy to approve Tom for the Shell Spec Building 28E Committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. City Attorney report, John, do you have anything? Nothing, okay. Committee and board reports, we have 4 committees that we want to approve the minutes for, and anything that you want to say about those. Economic Development Committee, again, the people voting on this will be just those committee members, not everybody. The first one, the Economic Development Committee from February 10th. Michael, do you have anything?
No,
that
it's
you
just,
wanna-
there was, the only item was the electric vehicle charging stations, which the council moved on.
Okay. You want to make a motion to approve those minutes?
All right, so moved.
Is there a second? Oh, second by Anderson. Please call the roll for that committee.
Hallie,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Next, we have the Environmental and Franchise, February 17th of 2020. Doug, do you have anything to add?
Just that an issue came up whereby somebody had a piece of property that did not adjoin their own property where they had their primary residence, and they wanted to install solar panels, which was denied by the Board of Adjustment. So the committee took this up and decided to refer it to planning and zoning for consideration.
Okay.
The waste management contract will be coming up, so we'll be running an RFP for that prior a prior council agreement was to submit an RFP for waste management or for solid waste collection. So we're doing that before the end of March. And Alliant Energy, one of their Alliant Energy's contracts will be coming up this year, so we'll be getting ready for that. I think it's electric, right, Melanie?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, electric. Okay, that's it.
You want to make a
I move we
motion?
approve the minutes for the February 17th meeting of the Environment Franchise Committee.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
I need a second from Two Hill or,
Yeah.
from Judy. Yep, that's right, sorry.
That's all right.
Sorry.
fair game.
Please call the roll.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Ways and Means, February 17th. Paul?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I did want to take a moment to thank the members of the committee, Doug Flournoy and Katie Anderson, and a number of participants who attended the 3-hour meeting on the 17th, including our city administrator, our city clerk, our city engineer, our fire chief, our city attorney, and members of the Fairfield Arts and Convention Center Board of Directors, and some Fairfield citizens as well. We worked really hard going through the budget, including the capital improvement plan and the LOST, the lost allocations. We looked at it thoroughly. I think that's one of our organizational goals, is to make sure we attend to our primary responsibility carefully. So I was mindful of the presentation this evening about how you want to make sure you keep your meetings on point and on topic, and I think we did. But Ways and Means is such that I do believe our job is kind of front-loaded, and that much of our work is at the beginning of the year as we review the budget. And we did that in a way that I feel confident that the city has gotten our best efforts in reviewing the budget, making sure it's responsible, making sure it's feasible. And I think the citizens will be pleased when I think we're going to have our discussion about the budget later on next month. So a couple of things I want to make sure that are mentioned that are in the report, but I just want to bring them to the greater light. The FACC board spoke with the city and made a presentation for a proposal for funding for the ongoing maintenance of the building. It's a building, the convention center is a building that the city owns, which I didn't know that until they made that point fairly clear that evening. The city owns that building, and of course it's a 15, how old is the building? How old is the building? 15. It's approaching 15 years in age. And they made a very good presentation. I thought a very convincing presentation. It's quite a resource for the city, and of course it has cost to maintain it. And the proposal was the proposal was made that the city should work with the tenants, the FACC, in restructuring the current lease to incorporate funding from the city, an annual commitment from the city to allow the building to be able to afford its ongoing maintenance costs, not for programming, not for staff, but just for the cost of maintaining the building. We thought that was reasonable, and we've made a recommendation to the full council that be approved. We also looked very carefully at the LOS, the lost allocations. Spent some time on that. It's kind of an interesting process. I've not been through it before, but you have this large amount of money, and you have to decide based on the proposals that are sent in by citizens and groups within the city, where is that money going to be allocated. I think it was a fair process. We had a spirited discussion, and we came up with, I think, some sensible allocations for those funds. It's not compared to the overall budget of the city, it's not a large amount, but it's significant, and it will be, I think, of good use to some of the citizens and groups that we decided to allocate that money for. There was a closed session that the committee had in which we discussed something that was instructed upon or given to us by the city, by the full council on our February 9th meeting, I believe. And we undertook the instruction of the city, and we completed the review, and we came out of closed session, and that based upon that's the city full council's instruction, we're proceeding with that process. I think that's really all we need to say about that at this point, but it's an important thing, and I think to the benefit of the city. So again, I want to thank it was a long meeting, but very productive, and I want to thank all the members of the council and of the city staff and the citizens who took out the time of their day, out of their evening, to make sure this meeting went well. So I would make a motion that the minutes of the Ways and Means Committee meeting for the 17th be approved.
Second.
Okay, been moved by Gandy, second by Flournoy. Please call the roll.
Gandy,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you. Last in the committee reports, Water and Sewer Utilities Committee meeting of February 24th. Tom?
Point of order.
Oh, sorry.
The committee made a recommendation. I think the council has to vote on that recommendation to review the lease agreement with the Fairfield Arts and Convention Center.
Okay. So yeah, let's do that.
So I make the motion that the Ways and Means review that lease agreement with the Fairfield Arts and Convention Center, with the aim being to move the maintenance of that building into the regular city budget.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
I'm going to vote no to the way you worded that because it's a little preemptive to say that you're going to bring all their maintenance into the city budget.
The building maintenance, that's the aim of the review of the...
All of it?
Well, it's a city building, yeah.
Well, we don't maintain all the Carnegie building. They're going to do a big funding campaign now, maintain that one.
Well...
So you're going to recommend that the committee discuss bringing all of the maintenance into the city budget. That's what your motion was.
Well, we're going to review the contract with that being...
As I understand the meeting, is there a discussion? As I understand the meeting, I think the committee's sense was we were going to consider some sort of annual commitment by the city. I don't know that we had agreed upon it was going to be for full maintenance or full maintenance costs. I think it was some sort of annual commitment. We had an idea what it might be, but we hadn't decided upon that. But we did decide that it would make sense to incorporate it into the lease, some sort of commitment by the city.
Yeah, any lease that gets rewritten would have to come here for approval.
Of course.
Wouldn't be...
But I just want to make sure. The language of the motion is not something I would support. So just want to make sure that's the intention that you had.
Do you want to restate that motion, Doug?
I'm not sure how I'm supposed to.
Maybe consider an annual commitment of some sort, but not give it an amount equal to all of the costs, something less than that, or something more open-ended.
I mean, ultimately, you're just going to review the lease, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Keep it simple.
Review the lease with the idea it would be treated like any other city building. We don't have agreements with other groups that control the maintenance of their buildings, do we?
Well, Carnegie's one where we have a contract with Indian Hills and Carnegie Historical Museum where they handle some of the costs or maintenance.
All right, so we can refer to that contract as guidance when we look at this one.
Just to, yeah.
So we're consistent. I want to be consistent. If we have
I would
but
say
we don't have one with the fire
to,
department.
yeah.
Or the library.
We're going to look at the lease and rework it to where we are able to assist, because currently it's written that we don't do any of the maintenance on the building. So where we're able to assist in the maintenance should the council approve any budgetary.
All right, so we can
relook at the lease would probably be the easiest way to say it.
So I can revise the motion to recommend that we have the Ways and Means Committee look at the lease with the aim being to assist the board with maintenance of the building.
You got that, Rebecca?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Got that on.
So the motion is to
Are you still going to second it?
is to review the lease with the idea that the city can then assist.
Yeah, right now I think the
With
lease,
maintenance.
I haven't read the lease yet. I've just been told that my understanding is that the entire maintenance is on the back of the Fairfield Arts and Convention Center board. So,
Okay.
That seems to be consistent with, sorry.
Yeah. I'm going to second his motion because I like the wording. And yes, the 2010 agreement does say that the Arts Convention Center was required to do all the maintenance.
Through 2030?
Yeah, it was pretty strict.
Yeah, I know. I thought it was kind of crazy, but okay.
Okay, so now there's a motion by Flournoy, a second by Hallie. Any further discussion?
Yes, I would like to add, I think his motion is consistent with the spirit and the language of the Ways and Means Committee's discussion that evening.
Great. Why don't you go ahead and call the roll?
Okay. Flournoy.
Yes.
Hallie.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Okay, now let's go to the Water and Sewer Utilities Committee that met on February 24th. Tom?
Which was tonight, and it was 2 hours and 50 minutes shorter than the Ways and Means one, I'd like to point out. 2 hours and 55 minutes shorter, okay. The property, which was the old Harper Brush, when they left and the new tenants came in, and it went over a period of about 7 or 8 years, I think. There were 2 tenants in there during that time. They changed out the water meter, but the readers didn't realize that it was a different formatted reader. So basically when they read the meter, they read the spins, the way I understand this, read the spins on the dial, and they use the multiplier as to what amount of water was used, and therefore the sewer is charged off of that. Well, this other meter spun at a different rate. So they were being overcharged by a significant amount over this period of time. So one of the gals up front caught this when she saw a picture. Somebody brought in a picture of the meter and realized it was not the meter they thought was being read. So if you've seen the minutes, you may have just gotten the minutes on updated, but Sequent Consumer Products over a period of time was overcharged by $33,603.84. And then R&J Investment Property was overcharged by $11,068.66. They were overcharged by a little more than that. They've already made up the difference on part of that, so this is what is still owed to them. We're confident. She has a stack of papers this thick that will spell it all out for anybody that wants to look at it, but we're confident that those numbers are correct. And we propose that those 2 amounts be refunded to those 2 businesses. I know one has retired and moved to Florida. The other one, we have a forwarding contact out in Ohio somewhere, but we haven't pursued either one yet until we brought it to council first, so.
I think we should make this motion separate.
Yes, I was going to say.
Okay.
So I would move.
The first one would be for Sequent Consumer Products for $33,603.84.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and second to refund Sequent Consumer Products $33,603.84. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, that's approved unanimously.
And then the second one is for R&J Investment Property for $11,068.66.
Second.
Moved by Toohill, second by Flournoy, to refund $11,068.66 to R&J Investment Property. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
So we should make clear this comes out of the water budget, not out of the city budget, so people who are.
Part of it will come out of the water budget, part of it will come out of sewer.
Sewer, right?
Yes.
Well, none of it will come out of the general fund.
No.
And then a motion to approve the minutes.
I'm not on that committee.
Tom, you want to make that?
I can make a motion to
Yeah.
approve, sure.
Second.
I submitted it.
Who is the second?
Mark.
Hallie? Okay. Please call the roll.
Toohill.
Yes.
Hallie.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Administrator and department reports.
Melanie, I'll start off with her project report.
Just 3 projects that I want to touch base on tonight. The largest being the Step 2 sanitary sewer conveyance. So if you live on the east side of town, you have seen, or commute past the east side of town, you have seen the clearing that is going on with Step 2. So they have cleared the easement, or slightly smaller than the easement area from Lamson Woods up to MUM. So it looks like the project is really far along, but they've only done clearing the entire length. They're actually just starting laying the pipe and setting the manholes at Lamson Woods this week in preparation for installing the sewer under the dike at the Neff wetland. The Neff wetlands have been drained So that work will be going on over the next month, getting from Lamson Woods up to Glasgow Road. And then also then on Highway 1, continuing to work with the DOT on the concept of the intersection with Libertyville Road. And the city, the consultant, the DOT district office will be presenting to the State Roundabout Review Board on April 3rd to propose, finalize that concept. Since it is a state highway, it requires that step before we can proceed with further design. And then lastly, the library chiller we've had a pre-construction meeting, gotten all those agreements signed. There's a significant, or well, not as significant as the clarifiers, but there's a longer lead time on this. However, the contractor has already been in and removed the old chiller from the basement. This was gonna have to be taken out in pieces. So we got it out without any noise complaints, which was great. And now we just sit and wait for the new equipment to come in and hopefully warmer weather where we actually need it. Other than that, unless there's any questions, that's all I wanted to touch base on tonight. All right, thank you.
Okay, no other questions? Okay, Chief?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We finally had a chance to conduct end of year for 2019 for crime statistics at the police department. It was average year. I'd like to say crime is down enough that we can start laying off police officers. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll ever get there, but we had out of the last 11 years, it ranked 6th highest for crimes. Crime was down a very little bit, but it was a very consistent year. One of our main measuring sticks, we look at calls for service every year, and it was 10,385 calls. On average, it's 10,424 calls every year, so basically 39 less than the average. So it was another busy year. I'm happy to answer. We wanted to get this information out so you could review it, and we definitely are happy to answer any questions. I've been talking to the media last week in this. They had some good questions, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
What are your totals that have two numbers there?
The
burglary, and what was the other one? Harassment?
Yes.
Yeah, harassment.
Under the burglary section, with the one in parentheses.
Mhm.
Oh, that's a great question. It kind of stipulates, last year we made a mistake, I made a mistake on counting crimes. We were getting it from a different area of the computer. We actually were getting it from the citizens that called in and said, I wanted to report a burglary. We updated that, that's a correct number now. It's very accurate, but a good example is only 39 people called in and stated I would like to report a burglary. Obviously, a lot of people don't understand what a burglary is as opposed to a theft, as opposed to a robbery. So a lot of times when they call in, it's how our dispatchers first categorize that. Well, there's a second number in our computer system where the officer then changes it to somebody that called and said they wanted to report a theft. Actually is reporting a burglary, so that's a more official number. So of the 39 people that called in to report a burglary, actually it was 103 that qualified under the burglary section where we had cooperating victims. Great question. The other one for the harassment, it's kind of the same thing. It's anywhere in the country. A lot of folks call us and want to report harassment. Unfortunately, we live in a country where there is free speech. The government can't limit that too much, only under specific examples. So a lot of times when folks call in to report harassment, last year it was 180 times. Of those, only 8 actually made it to the level of harassment. Not that we're complaining, or we do spend a lot of time talking to people with civil issues, harassment type issues. The officers are very well trained to know how far because a lot of times people call and say, I want the police to tell these people to give me this property back or stop calling me. And we have to explain to them that in this country we live in, police or the government can't tell you to do that. A judge actually has to get involved, such as, so a lot of these are referrals to a civil attorney to talk to them, but it's always a nice step. We also explain to them what the elements we need for the harassment charge, and that it's a very high standard because obviously the government is coming in and arresting somebody for that crime.
Are there any questions, Chief? Thank you, Chief. We appreciate the report. Are there any questions? You said there were some particularly good questions asked by the media. Are there any questions that they asked, one or two, that you wish to address further here at Council?
Just a lot of clarifying questions where we, a lot of it is just explaining to them that these statistics are going up. We try to get it as fast as we can at the start or close to the end of the year, just because people, want to know how crime was last year. That's why we like to do it in February. They had some questions on those numbers will continue going up, not by a lot, but slightly. If I went back today, from a lot of times officers will be conducting an investigation, assume it's a burglary, find out later the elements maybe identify a suspect, or the elements weren't met, so it's actually just a theft, and made the arrest for the theft. So the theft would go up one, where the burglaries would go down one. And a lot of times then we're getting longer investigations. Like this last one, we were kind of discussing about how a detailed investigation takes not only weeks, sometimes months to get the results back. And a lot of crimes that were reported in 2019 won't lead to arrest for another, maybe now or another couple months in the future. But the statistics still go up. They fluctuate. But, just for full transparency, there were a lot of questions about community policing and how to address these crimes through community policing and also assistance from the citizens. That's what's great about our media is they always want to get that information out there and the positive information, how citizens can make their homes safer and their vehicles safer and their person safer. They're a great ally with us.
Were there questions about, I have the question, were there
Sure.
questions about what these reports show incidences of crime or purported crime? Are there statistics you maintain about preventing crime or some sort of study in that area?
Yeah, a lot of prevention is just the community outreach type stuff that we do. Crime statistics, and it gets frustrating sometimes because crime stats are not always a positive thing. It's more the reactive part of law enforcement. The crime's already been committed, then we show up and talk to the victim. So it's more reactive instead of proactive law enforcement. But a lot of times we look at these stats so we can proactively address, if vandalism goes up 1 year, we look at, what's the issue here, and can we do some surveillance type in plain clothes and have some targeted, which is more the proactive, and it's much more effective. But most of these, especially when you're shorthanded and still training, a lot of it's reactive, but we're coming to the point now where with these stats, we will then look at, we look at every year, the lieutenants and I sit down and how can we be proactive, and accidents are always a huge number we look at, and traffic enforcement type projects too. have officers address if this is the issue with whether it be speed or seatbelt use, where we had a targeted night where we spent overtime, and have officers out there working just traffic enforcement and doing a special project like that. So it is, it's always something we sit down in a meeting and analyze for a couple hours to address, because we always want to be not just reactive, proactive in law enforcement.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Anything else, Aaron?
Yeah, couple of things. We were talking earlier about our codification project. I contacted Simmer and Corey about what was happening with the codification. They have reviewed everything that we've submitted back to them, and they are going to draft to get our codification at least drafted at this point. So there should be something. I don't know how long it takes to draft it, but there should be something coming back at least at that point. The other thing, we had a service agency meeting in January? Was it in December? It's been a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
January.
January.
Yes,
Supervisor Dimmitt requested us to request that same conversation regarding dispatch funding with just supervisors and council members. I have a March 5th at 5 p.m. date set. Do we still want to have the service agency council members handle that? Is that okay with you, Mayor?
Yep.
Okay. So I will send an email out to Doug and Martha about that meeting for the discussion. I'll also give you some more information prior to the meeting so that you're aware of what I'm looking at. That's all I've got.
Okay. Have we heard back for a final on the comprehensive plan?
I did give her the comments. I've only got back one comment from council after I sent it back out to you all with the corrections, so I've sent that back. I haven't heard back from her on that.
Okay, great. Hopefully we'll have that soon. Oh, great. Okay, if there's nothing else, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Toohill.
Second.
Second by Flournoy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.